Welcome to the English Pod community. I am Blake. Today, we dive into an episode focused on advanced English listening and speaking skills, a session designed to sharpen your abilities in both listening and writing through real-life stories and practical examples. New listeners should know that every day we upload videos to help you improve your English, offering fresh content to keep you engaged and learning. Have you ever wondered how a simple conversation can lead to a breakthrough in understanding a different culture or perspective? Have you experienced a moment when listening carefully changed the course of your day? Consider how active listening can turn a routine encounter into a meaningful experience. I remember a conversation I had with my friend Sarah during a long train journey. Sarah shared her experience of volunteering at a community center, where she learned about the struggles and triumphs of local families. As she spoke, I noticed how the details of her story, the laughter of the children, the warmth of the volunteers, the resilience in the eyes of those she helped, painted a vivid picture. This not only improved my listening skills, but also expanded my vocabulary and inspired my writing. Later, I met Mark at a local cafe, where he narrated his recent business trip overseas. His storytelling transported me to bustling markets and quiet conversations with local vendors. I observed how his clear pronunciation and expressive intonation emphasized the challenges and successes he encountered. Mark's story was a reminder of how diverse experiences enrich our language skills and help us convey our own stories more effectively. Consider the case of Emily, a colleague who often travels for work. During one meeting, Emily described an unexpected encounter with an elderly man who shared his personal journey through hardships and hope. Her narrative was filled with emotion and clarity, making it easy for everyone in the room to connect with the story. Through her detailed account, I learned that effective speaking goes beyond words. It involves sharing our emotions and life lessons in a way that resonates with the listener. By listening to these stories, you not only practice advanced listening skills, but also gain insights into structuring your own narratives. Think about how you can use details from your own life to make your conversations more engaging. Reflect on the tone, pace, and choice of words when telling a story. How might you adjust your delivery to ensure your message is both clear and captivating? As we continue, let these personal stories remind you that every conversation is an opportunity to improve. Notice the emphasis placed on pronunciation and intonation in each story. Consider how you might adopt these techniques to enhance your own communication skills, both in speaking and in writing. In this episode, we aim to equip you with practical strategies and memorable examples to help you express your ideas with confidence. Whether you're recounting an adventurous trip, a challenging work project, or a heartfelt personal experience, let your words flow. Let's explore the idea of active listening further with a simple story. I once visited a small town where I met a kind local named Jake. He told me about his daily routine, sharing how he woke up early to tend his garden and later helped his neighbors with small repairs. As he spoke, I paid close attention not just to his words, but to his tone and the pauses between sentences. I noticed how his careful choice of words painted a clear picture of his life. This practice of tuning in to every detail not only deepened my understanding of his story, but also inspired me to express my own experiences more vividly. Now, think about a time when you listened to someone speak, maybe a friend or a family member, and something they said stuck with you. How did that conversation change your view of the situation or the person? By reflecting on these moments, you can start to notice patterns in how people use language and emotion to connect with others. In another instance, I attended a community workshop where a guest speaker, Lisa, discussed her journey of overcoming challenges. Her story was full of simple, clear language, yet every word carried meaning. I found myself focusing on how she structured her sentences and the natural rhythm of her speech. This made it easier for me to recall important details and think about how to improve my own speaking and writing. Lisa's example taught me that clarity and emotion can go hand in hand, making your communication more engaging and relatable. Imagine how using accessible language can open doors in everyday conversations. Whether you are explaining a difficult concept or sharing a personal anecdote, the goal is to keep your words simple and your message clear. Instead of complex words that might confuse your listeners, choose everyday language that invites understanding and empathy. For example, instead of saying, "I was utterly astonished by the unprecedented turn of events," you might say, "I was really surprised by what happened." This slight change makes your story feel more personal and relatable. Consider practicing this technique by sharing a short story from your life. Perhaps you had an unexpected encounter during your commute or a pleasant surprise while shopping. Focus on using everyday words and a natural speaking rhythm. As you practice, think about the pauses and emphasis you can use to highlight the key parts of your story. This approach not only improves your speaking skills, but also enhances your writing, as you learn to structure your narratives in a way that is engaging and easy to follow. Reflect on how these techniques can apply to your daily life. Whether you're speaking with friends or writing a personal journal entry, the idea is to make your message clear and enjoyable to listen to. By practicing active listening and simplifying your language, you can build confidence in your ability to communicate effectively. Let's continue exploring more practical tips and real-life examples that can help you become a better listener and speaker. Have you ever experienced a moment when a simple conversation opened your eyes to a new way of thinking? Imagine sitting in a quiet corner of a busy cafe, where every word spoken holds the promise of a new idea. In today's session on Advanced English Listening and Speaking Skills, we explore how everyday conversations can help you improve not only your listening, but also your writing skills through relatable, real-life stories. I want you to picture this. It was a sunny afternoon when I met Olivia at a local park. Olivia, a friendly woman with a warm smile, was sitting on a bench reading a book about travel adventures. As I walked by, I noticed she was quietly sharing a story with her friend Daniel about a trip to a small village in the countryside. Olivia described in clear, simple language how the villagers welcomed her with open arms, offering home-cooked meals and stories of their everyday lives. I listened closely to every detail, her soft tone, the pauses that added emphasis, and the genuine emotion behind her words. This experience taught me that listening is not just about hearing words, but about absorbing the feelings and context behind them. Have you ever felt that the tone of someone's voice can change the meaning of their words entirely? Another instance comes to mind. A few months ago, I attended a community storytelling event where James, a local shop owner, shared his journey of starting his own business. James's narrative was full of challenges and small victories. He talked about the early mornings when he would unlock his shop, the careful planning that went into displaying his products, and the rewarding conversations he had with regular customers. James used everyday language that was easy to understand, yet his words carried a powerful message of persistence and hope. As I listened, I began to notice how his clear pronunciation and natural pacing made his story accessible to everyone in the room. It was a reminder that when you speak clearly and sincerely, your audience can connect with you on a deeper level. Think about a time when someone's story resonated with you so much that you remembered it for days. Perhaps it was a conversation with a friend, a family member, or even a chance encounter with a stranger. In each of these moments, the speaker's choice of words, tone, and rhythm played a crucial role in capturing your attention. These experiences are not just fleeting moments. They are opportunities to learn how to use language effectively, both in speaking and in writing. I recall another memorable conversation with a neighbor named Tom. Tom had just returned from a week-long hiking trip in the mountains. Over a cup of tea, he recounted his journey with such clarity and passion that I felt as though I had been there with him. He described the crisp morning air, the sound of rustling leaves, and the gentle hum of nature that surrounded him. His narrative was simple yet vivid, using phrases that painted clear pictures in my mind. Listening to Tom made me realize that good storytelling is about connecting with the listener on a personal level. It taught me that by focusing on accessible language and everyday descriptions, I could share my own experiences in a way that others would understand and appreciate. Consider how these personal stories can shape our understanding of language. When you listen carefully, you start to notice the subtle differences in how people express themselves. For example, when Lisa, a colleague, talked about her first day at a new job, she used a mix of humor and honesty that made her experience both relatable and instructive. She explained how the unfamiliar environment initially made her nervous, but with each friendly greeting and simple conversation, her confidence grew. Lisa's story reminded me that every challenge we face in life has a story behind it, a story that can be told with clear, accessible language that resonates with everyone. This realization has encouraged me to embrace my own experiences and articulate them with clarity, focusing on everyday words that capture the essence of my feelings. I often ask myself, what makes a story memorable? It's not just the events, but the way those events are told. When you use simple, everyday language, you invite your listeners to become part of the narrative. For instance, during a casual dinner with my friend Emily, she recounted an unexpected encounter with a stray dog. Emily described how the dog, with its friendly eyes and wagging tail, brought a sense of calm and joy to a stressful day. Her story was not laden with complex vocabulary. Instead, it relied on the natural flow of conversation and the honest portrayal of emotions. This approach not only made her story engaging, but also made me want to share my own similar experiences in a clear and relatable way. Let's take a moment to reflect on the power of accessible language in everyday interactions. Imagine you are in a meeting at work. Instead of using jargon or overly complex expressions, try to explain your ideas in a way that everyone can understand. This not only makes your message clearer, but also encourages others to participate more openly. By choosing simple words and clear expressions, you create an environment where ideas can be shared freely and effectively. How often do you find that a straightforward explanation can bridge gaps between people from different backgrounds? Accessible language serves as a common ground where everyone feels comfortable and included. Another example comes from a recent interaction I had with a young student named Anna. Anna was preparing for her first public speaking event at school, and she was very nervous about using the right words. I listened to her practice, and I noticed how she carefully enunciated each word, paying attention to her intonation. Anna's dedication to using clear, accessible language was inspiring. She even shared a story about a time when a simple act of kindness made a big difference in her life, a neighbor helping her family with groceries during a difficult time. Her narrative was heartfelt and sincere, and it demonstrated that effective communication is not about impressing others with big words, but about conveying genuine feelings and experiences. Anna's story is a reminder that every person has a unique voice, and when that voice is heard clearly, it can touch the hearts of many. Now, let's talk about how you can practice these techniques in your daily life. One effective method is to keep a journal where you write about your daily experiences. As you write, focus on using simple, clear language to describe your feelings, thoughts, and observations. Over time, you'll notice that your writing becomes more vivid and engaging. When you write about a recent conversation, pay attention to the details, the tone, the pauses, and the choice of words. These small elements can make a big difference in how your story is received by your readers. Another, Practical exercise is to record yourself speaking about a topic that interests you. Choose a subject that you feel passionate about. Maybe it's a hobby, a recent adventure, or even a challenge you faced at work. Listen to the recording and note any areas where your language might be too complex or where you could use more. Natural expressions. This self-assessment can help you refine your speaking skills, making your narratives clearer and more engaging. Have you ever listened to your own voice and noticed how you naturally use accessible language when sharing personal experiences? In our daily lives, we often have many opportunities to practice these skills. For example, while commuting to work or waiting in line at the grocery store, try to engage in small conversations with those around you. These interactions, though brief, offer a chance to experiment with your speaking style. Use simple language, focus on clarity, and pay attention to how others respond to your words. Each interaction is a building block for improving your overall communication skills. Notice how even small adjustments in your tone or choice of words can lead to more meaningful exchanges. I also want to share another personal story that highlights the importance of accessible language. A few years ago, I volunteered at a local community center where I met a man named Robert. Robert had spent most of his life working in technical fields, and his vocabulary was full of specialized terms. However, when he started teaching basic computer skills to seniors, he made a conscious effort to simplify his language. Instead of using technical jargon, he chose everyday words that his audience could easily understand. Robert's approach was incredibly effective. He explained concepts with such clarity that even the most complex ideas became accessible to everyone in the room. His experience is a powerful example of how tailoring your language to your audience can make all the difference in communication. Consider how this lesson applies to your own interactions. Whether you are explaining a concept to a friend, presenting an idea at work, or even writing an email, the goal should be to communicate in a way that is clear and engaging. Accessible language doesn't mean dumbing down your ideas. It means presenting them in a manner that invites understanding and connection. Have you ever tried explaining something in simple terms and noticed how much more effectively your message was received? I want you to imagine a future conversation where you feel completely at ease sharing your thoughts. In this scenario, you're able to express yourself with confidence because you know that your language is clear and relatable. Picture yourself talking about a topic you are passionate about, whether it's a personal hobby, a travel experience, or a challenge you've overcome. As you speak, your words flow naturally, and your listener is drawn into your story. This is the power of combining active listening with accessible language. When you practice these skills, you not only become a better speaker, but also a better writer capable of conveying your ideas with clarity and emotion. Let's explore another everyday situation. Imagine you are attending a small group discussion at a community center. The topic is about local history, and several people are sharing their family stories and memories. One participant, a gentleman named Robert, tells a tale of how his family built their home decades ago using simple tools and a lot of hard work. His story is filled with practical details, like the way his father measured each piece of wood and the laughter that echoed during family gatherings. His narrative uses plain language that anyone in the room can understand. As you listen, you realize that his use of accessible language not only makes his story more engaging, but also helps everyone feel connected to a shared history. This simple approach to storytelling is something you can incorporate into your own speech and writing. Another practical tip for developing your skills is to engage in conversations where you deliberately practice clarity. Find a friend or colleague who is also interested in improving their English and set aside time for regular discussions. During these conversations, focus on using simple language and asking questions like, "Can you explain that in another way?" Or, "What do you mean by that?" This active engagement not only improves your listening skills, but also encourages you to refine your speaking style. The goal is to create a dialogue where both parties feel comfortable and understood. I also recall a time when my friend Mark and I went for a walk along the river. Mark, known for his thoughtful insights, shared his experience of witnessing a beautiful sunrise. He described how the sky transformed into a canvas of soft pastel colors and how the gentle breeze seemed to carry the promise of a new beginning. His description was vivid, yet uncomplicated. Mark's ability to convey the beauty of that morning using everyday language inspired me to think about how I could capture similar moments in my own writing. His narrative was a clear reminder that advanced listening and speaking do not require complex vocabulary, but rather the art of observing and sharing details in a way that anyone can relate to. Sometimes, the most profound lessons come from the simplest interactions. Consider the time when I was at a local market and met a vendor named Maria. Maria sold handmade crafts, and she took pride in explaining the stories behind each piece. As she spoke about her craft, she used words that were both simple and rich in meaning. She explained how each item was inspired by a family tradition or a cherished memory. Maria's accessible language made her customers feel like they were part of her story. This encounter taught me that the power of language lies not in its complexity, but in its ability to connect people through shared experiences and emotions. As we continue exploring these ideas, think about how you can apply them to your own life. Perhaps you have a story about a local event or a personal experience that you want to share. Take a moment to consider how you can tell that story using everyday language that is clear and engaging. What details will you include? How will you pace your narrative to capture the listener's attention? Reflect on the voices of those you've listened to. The friendly tone of Olivia, the sincere simplicity of James, the heartfelt expression of Anna, and the clear instructions of Robert. Each of these voices offers a lesson in the art of communication. One effective strategy is to practice summarizing stories in your own words. After listening to a conversation, try to retell the story to someone else using your natural language. This exercise helps reinforce the habit of paying attention to detail while keeping your message accessible. For instance, if you recently watched a short documentary or listened to a podcast, take a few minutes to write or speak a summary of what you learned. Focus on the main ideas and use simple words to express them. Over time, this practice will strengthen your ability to process and communicate complex ideas in a clear and relatable manner. Another method is to engage in group discussions, either in person or online, where you can exchange stories and ideas with others. In these settings, you'll find that different people bring unique perspectives and ways of expressing themselves. Notice how some speakers naturally use accessible language, while others might rely on more formal or complex vocabulary. Reflect on what works best in each context and think about how you can adapt your own style to suit different audiences. Have you ever participated in a discussion where you felt completely understood because the language used was simple and clear? Those moments are opportunities for growth. In our journey toward becoming better communicators, every conversation is a lesson. Each story you hear and each word you speak adds to your overall skill set. Whether it's a casual chat at a cafe, a detailed account of a personal experience, or a formal discussion at a community meeting, the key is to stay engaged and to listen actively. When you listen, you learn not only about the subject at hand, but also about how language works in real life. This understanding then informs how you speak and write. Imagine a scenario where you are sharing a personal experience about a challenge you faced at work. Instead of using technical language or industry jargon, you describe your feelings, the simple steps you took to overcome the challenge, and the lessons you learned along the way. By choosing everyday words, you ensure that your story is accessible to everyone, regardless of their background. This approach not only makes your story relatable, but also helps you connect with your audience on a personal level. How might your conversations change if you always aim to speak as if you were telling a story to a close friend? Reflect on the power of repetition in learning new language skills. Each time you engage in a conversation where you practice clarity, you reinforce the habit of using accessible language. Over time, this becomes second nature. You start noticing the nuances of tone, the importance of pacing, and the way pauses can emphasize a point. These elements, while subtle, have a profound impact on how your message is received. For example, during a conversation with a coworker named Ben, I noticed that when he spoke slowly and deliberately, his ideas were much easier to understand. Ben's habit of speaking clearly is something that I strive to emulate in my own storytelling. Another valuable practice is to invite feedback from your listeners. Ask them if your message was clear or if there were parts of your story that could be explained better. This constructive feedback can be a powerful tool in refining your communication skills, whether it's a friend, a colleague, or a community member. Their insights can help you identify areas where your language might be too complex or where you could use simpler expressions. Have you ever received feedback that changed the way you speak or write? Often, these small adjustments lead to significant improvements. As you continue to develop your English listening and speaking skills, remember that every interaction is an opportunity to learn. Embrace the simplicity of everyday language and focus on making your communication as clear as possible. Whether you are recounting a personal experience, summarizing a conversation, or explaining a concept, let your words be a bridge that connects you with your listener. The beauty of accessible language is that it transforms every story into something universally relatable, inviting everyone to be part of the conversation. Think about the impact of a well-told story. It can inspire, educate, and even heal. By focusing on clarity and simplicity, you allow your true thoughts and emotions to shine through. Your words have the power to evoke memories, spark curiosity, and foster understanding. In this journey of continuous improvement, every step you take in refining your speaking and listening skills brings you closer to becoming a confident communicator. Imagine the difference it will make when you can share your personal experiences and ideas with ease, capturing the attention of your audience every time. As we continue this exploration of advanced English listening and speaking skills, keep in mind the importance of being present in each conversation. Let the voices around you guide you, and let each interaction be a lesson in the art of clear communication. By focusing on accessible language, you make room for everyone to understand and connect with your message, turning everyday encounters into memorable learning experiences. Have you ever noticed how a single conversation can change the course of your day or even your perspective on life? Imagine sitting at your favorite coffee shop where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mixes with the soft hum of background chatter, and each conversation you overhear carries its own unique story. Today, we continue our exploration of advanced English listening and speaking skills by diving deep into real-life experiences and everyday moments that not only teach us language, but also help us connect with the world around us. New listeners, remember that on the English Pod Community channel, we upload videos every day to help you improve your English, so be sure to check back regularly for fresh content. Think back to a time when you heard a story that stayed with you long after it was told. Perhaps it was the tale of a friend who overcame challenges with courage, or the narrative of a neighbor who shared how a small act of kindness transformed their day. These stories remind us that language is not just a tool for communication. It's a window into the heart and soul of our shared human experience. How often do you find yourself captivated by a simple recounting of daily events, where every word is laden with meaning and every pause gives you a moment to reflect. I remember an early morning conversation I had with a man named George while waiting for the bus on a chilly winter day. George was a retiree who had spent decades working as a mechanic, and he loved nothing more than to share memories of his younger days. He spoke in a gentle, deliberate tone, describing how he and his colleagues used to fix cars in a small, bustling garage filled with the sounds of clanking metal and laughter. As he recalled the camaraderie and the simple joys of life, I noticed how his clear, accessible language made the past come alive. He didn't use complicated words or fancy phrases. Instead, he relied on familiar expressions and vivid details that painted a picture in my mind. Have you ever experienced a moment when someone's clear and simple language made a memory feel as if you were right there with them? On another occasion, I found myself in a lively park where families, friends, and strangers gathered to enjoy the afternoon sun. There, I met a woman named Rebecca who was reading a letter from her long-absent friend. As she read the letter aloud, her voice carried warmth and sincerity, and the words seemed to leap off the paper, full of life and emotion. Rebecca's reading was not a mere recitation. It was an invitation to experience her friend's adventures, hopes, and dreams. Her accessible language and heartfelt delivery made it easy for everyone around to feel connected, even if just for a moment. This encounter taught me that when we use simple language with genuine emotion, we invite others into our world, making them active participants in our stories. Later that week, I attended a community meeting where a young man named Ethan shared his experience of starting a small business from scratch. His journey was filled with ups and downs, late nights, early mornings, and moments of doubt. But what stood out was the way he told his story. Ethan spoke slowly and clearly, choosing words that were both familiar and precise. He described how he learned to manage finances, communicate with customers, and navigate unexpected challenges with a calm determination. His narrative was peppered with questions that encouraged others to think about their own experiences. Have you ever taken a risk that seemed too big at first? And how did you overcome that moment of uncertainty? These questions not only made his story interactive, but also helped his listeners connect with the emotions behind his journey. As you listen to stories like Ethan's, you begin to notice patterns in language, how accessible words and clear phrases can transform a personal experience into a universal lesson. Consider the power of a well-placed pause, the importance of enunciating clearly, and the subtle impact of intonation. All of these elements work together to create a narrative that is both engaging and easy to understand. It makes you wonder, what small changes in your own speaking style could make your everyday conversations more powerful? I once experienced a similar realization during a leisurely walk with my friend Natalie. We strolled along a tree-lined street, discussing everything from the weather to our dreams for the future. Natalie shared a recent experience in which she visited an art gallery. As she described the colors, textures, and emotions evoked by the paintings, I noticed that her language was refreshingly straightforward. She didn't resort to abstract or overly elaborate descriptions. Instead, she used simple words that captured the essence of each piece of art. Her description was so vivid that I could almost see the paintings for myself. This conversation taught me that when we choose language that is accessible and relatable, we not only enhance our listening skills, but also enrich our ability to write and express our own thoughts in a clear and compelling way. Every day presents new opportunities to practice these skills. Imagine you're at a family dinner and someone shares a story about their day at work. Instead of letting the conversation pass by as routine, try to engage more deeply. Ask questions like, "What was the most interesting part of your day?" Or, "How did that experience change the way you think about your job?" These questions encourage the speaker to delve into details and use language that is descriptive and honest. In doing so, you create a dialogue that is both informative and engaging. It's a simple exercise, but it has the power to transform everyday interactions into rich learning experiences. There was another time when I found myself deeply involved in a conversation with a colleague named Victor. Victor was known for his meticulous attention to detail, and during one of our coffee breaks, he began explaining a complex project he was working on. Instead of overwhelming me with technical jargon, he broke down each step of the process into everyday language that made the project easy to understand. He used analogies like comparing the project to assembling a puzzle, where each piece had to fit perfectly to complete the picture. His clear and accessible language not only demystified a potentially complicated subject, but also made me appreciate the beauty of simplicity in communication. It's moments like these that remind us that even the most challenging topics can be communicated effectively if we choose our words carefully and with consideration. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to forget the value of slowing down and truly listening. I once attended a storytelling circle in a small town where people of all ages gathered to share personal anecdotes and life lessons. One storyteller, an elderly woman named Margaret, recounted her experiences of growing up during a time of significant change. Her voice was steady and measured as she spoke about the hardships and joys of her youth. Margaret's narrative was interwoven with moments of quiet reflection and bursts of laughter, all delivered in language that was both simple and deeply moving. Her story was a masterclass in accessible communication. She used language that resonated with every listener, regardless of their background. This experience underscored for me that the true art of storytelling lies not in ornate vocabulary, but in the ability to convey genuine emotion through clear, straightforward language. As you reflect on these experiences, consider the role of active listening in your own life. Have you ever noticed how your mood changes after a conversation where you felt truly heard? Active listening is not just about absorbing words. It's about understanding the emotion and context behind them. Think about a time when a friend's voice, full of empathy and clarity, made you feel supported. Perhaps it was during a difficult moment, or maybe it was simply a pleasant chat that brightened your day. In those moments, you likely felt a sense of connection, a bond formed through shared understanding and mutual respect. This is the essence of effective communication. When both the speaker and the listener engage in a thoughtful exchange, every word becomes a stepping stone toward deeper connection. I also recall an experience during a community volunteer event, where I met a dedicated teacher named Susan. Susan was leading a workshop on creative writing for a group of young learners. She began the session by sharing a personal story about her own struggles with writing as a child. Using accessible language and a sincere tone, she explained how she once doubted her ability to express herself, only to discover that her unique perspective was something worth sharing. Susan's story was filled with pauses that allowed the students to absorb her message, and her clear, uncomplicated language made her experience relatable to everyone in the room. As the session progressed, she encouraged the students to write about their daily lives using simple, honest words. Her approach demonstrated that the key to effective communication, whether in writing or speaking, is not complexity, but authenticity and clarity. Have you ever felt inspired by someone who turned their challenges into a lesson for others? In another engaging encounter, I found myself at a local farmer's market, where vendors were passionately explaining the origins of their produce. One vendor, a cheerful man named Carlos, shared the story of his family's farm. He described the early mornings spent tending to the fields, the careful nurturing of the crops, and the joy of harvesting fresh produce. Carlos used everyday language that was both vivid and heartfelt. His narrative was peppered with questions to his customers, inviting them to share their own experiences with food and family traditions. "What is your favorite meal made from fresh produce?" he would ask, his eyes lighting up with genuine curiosity. This interactive storytelling not only made his stall more inviting, but also created a shared experience among everyone present. Carlos's approach is a powerful reminder that accessible language can build community, bridging the gap between speaker and listener in the most organic way. As our conversation continues, consider how you might incorporate these techniques into your own interactions. When you speak, think about the clarity of your words, the pace of your sentences, and the way you use pauses to emphasize key points. Ask yourself, am I using language that invites understanding? And could I explain this idea in a way that anyone, regardless of their background, would grasp? It might help to imagine that you are telling a story to a close friend over a cup of tea. This mental image can guide you toward using language that is warm, inviting, and accessible. I recall another conversation that left a lasting impression on me, this time with a creative soul named Lydia. Lydia was an artist who expressed her ideas through both words and visuals. One rainy afternoon, as we sat under a shared umbrella near a busy street, she described the inspiration behind her latest painting. Her language was simple yet evocative, describing how the raindrops on the pavement reminded her of tears of joy and sorrow intertwined. She asked reflective questions like, have you ever noticed how the sound of rain can soothe the soul? And what memories does a rainy day bring to you? Her accessible language, combined with thoughtful questions, transformed a mundane, rainy day into a canvas of shared experiences. Lydia's storytelling made me realize that every sensory detail, every sound, sight, and smell can be woven into a narrative that is both personal and... In another setting, I attended a small book club meeting where a passionate reader named Martin led a discussion about a novel that had deeply affected him. Martin's discussion was not filled with overly academic language. Instead, he used words that were familiar and direct. He described how the novel's simple language brought complex emotions to life, and he encouraged everyone to share their own interpretations. "Well, what did you feel when you read this passage?" he would ask, ensuring that every member felt included in the conversation. Martin's ability to break down complicated themes into accessible language helped everyone see the beauty of the story from different perspectives. His approach is a testament to how accessible language can turn a solitary reading experience into a vibrant communal exchange of ideas. Let's also consider how technology and media play a role in our language journey. Podcasts like the ones you on the English Pod community are designed to be both engaging and educational. When you listen to a podcast episode, try to focus not only on the content, but also on the delivery. Notice how the speakers use clear, simple language to describe their experiences and how their tone and rhythm invite you to become part of their story. Each episode is an opportunity to pick up new vocabulary, observe different accents, and learn how to articulate your own thoughts in an accessible manner. Have you ever listened to a story where the speaker's clarity made you feel as though you were sitting right there with them, experiencing every moment as if it were your own? I remember a particularly memorable podcast episode I listened to a few months ago. The host, a warm and engaging speaker, recounted a series of travel adventures that took him to remote villages, bustling cities, and serene natural landscapes. Throughout the episode, he used everyday language that was rich in imagery, yet simple enough for anyone to understand. He described the vibrant street markets, the melodic sounds of local music, and the unexpected friendships he formed along the way. At one point, he paused and asked, "What is it about travel that opens our minds and hearts?" This question resonated with me deeply, prompting me to reflect on my own journeys and the countless interactions that shaped my perspective. His approach to storytelling was a clear example of how accessible language can transform travel experiences into life lessons that are both relatable and inspiring. There is also immense value in writing as a tool to reinforce these listening and speaking skills. Consider starting a daily journal where you recount the small, significant moments of your day. Describe a conversation that moved you, a moment of unexpected beauty, or a challenge that you faced and overcame. Use simple language to capture the essence of these experiences. Over time, you will notice that your writing becomes a mirror for your spoken language, clear, direct, and emotionally resonant. When you write about your life in this way, you create a personal archive of stories that not only document your journey, but also serve as practice for refining your communication skills. Imagine a scenario where you are invited to speak at a community event. You are asked to share a personal story about resilience and hope. How would you craft your narrative so that every listener feels included and inspired? Perhaps you would start with a simple question. Have you ever felt like the odds were against you, yet found strength in the simplest moments? Then, you might recount a time when a small act of kindness, a smile from a stranger, or a helping hand during a difficult moment transformed your day. Use accessible language to describe the scene, the soft glow of the setting sun, the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the reassuring warmth of human connection. By focusing on these simple yet powerful details, you invite your audience to see themselves in your story, bridging the gap between speaker and listener. There was a moment during one summer evening when I sat with a group of friends around a bonfire, sharing stories under the stars. One friend, Hannah, told us about the time she lost her way during a nighttime hike. Instead of focusing on the fear or the technical details of navigation, she spoke about the simple human emotions she experienced, the quiet panic, the sudden relief when she finally found her way, and the overwhelming gratitude for the kindness of a stranger who helped her. Her language was accessible and heartfelt, and she asked us, "What do you do when you feel lost? Not just in the woods, but in life?" That question sparked a profound discussion among us, each person sharing their own moments of feeling lost and finding their way. Hannah's story was a reminder that accessible language, paired with honest emotion, can lead to deep, transformative conversations. Now, let's shift our focus to another important aspect of improving your English listening and speaking skills: practicing empathy through language. When you listen to someone, try to place yourself in their shoes. Imagine the challenges they might be facing, the joys they are celebrating, and the lessons they have learned along the way. In one instance, I spent an afternoon with a community volunteer named Frank, who dedicated his weekends to helping local youth learn about technology. Frank explained how many of these young people came from backgrounds where access to technology was limited, and he used simple, encouraging language to explain complex concepts. He described how, with each lesson, the students' eyes would light up with understanding. His approach was gentle and patient, always inviting questions and discussion. As he spoke, I realized that his clear and accessible language not only taught the children about technology, but also instilled in them the confidence to dream big. Frank's example shows us that when we speak with empathy and simplicity, we create an environment where everyone feels valued and understood. In our daily lives, accessible language is a bridge to better understanding. Consider the difference between saying, "I am overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of the situation," and "I feel really stressed out because there's too much going on." The latter not only conveys your emotions more directly, but also makes it easier for others to empathize and offer help. It's a subtle shift in language that can have a profound impact on how you connect with those around you. Reflect on the times when a straightforward expression of your feelings led to a supportive response, and think about how you might continue to cultivate this habit in your everyday interactions. There are also numerous practical exercises you can adopt to enhance your listening skills further. For example, try listening to a short story or a podcast episode and then summarizing what you heard in your own words. Focus on capturing the key details, the emotions conveyed, the sequence of events, and the overall message. You might even record your summary and play it back to see how clear your delivery is. This exercise not only reinforces your understanding of the story, but also gives you valuable practice in using accessible language to convey complex ideas. Another engaging practice is to participate in conversation circles or language meetups, where you can share personal stories and listen to others do the same. These gatherings offer a relaxed environment in which everyone is encouraged to speak freely and clearly. Notice how different speakers use simple language to explain their thoughts, and consider adopting similar techniques in your own conversations. Ask yourself, what can I learn from the way others communicate? And how might I adjust my style to make my stories more engaging and relatable? I once had the opportunity to join an online discussion group focused on cultural exchange. In that virtual space, people from diverse backgrounds shared their unique experiences in everyday life, from the taste of a traditional dish to the rhythms of their local festivals. One participant, Amina, described a childhood memory of celebrating a local festival with her family. Her language was filled with warmth and nostalgia. She spoke about the laughter of children, the vibrant colors of traditional costumes, and the comforting aromas of home-cooked food. Amina asked, "What does your favorite memory taste like?" This playful yet profound question resonated with everyone, sparking a lively exchange of personal stories. In that moment, it became clear that accessible language can serve as a universal connector, transcending cultural differences and inviting everyone to share in the beauty of everyday life. Reflecting on these diverse experiences, it is evident that mastering advanced English listening and speaking skills is not solely about memorizing vocabulary or perfecting pronunciation. It's about embracing the art of storytelling in its simplest form. Whether you're recounting a mundane moment or a life-changing experience, the key is to remain authentic and use language that everyone can relate to. As you practice, you'll find that your confidence grows, your vocabulary becomes richer, and your ability to connect with others deepens. How might your daily interactions transform if you approached each conversation as an opportunity to share a piece of your own story in a clear, accessible way? Consider a scenario from my own life where this approach made a significant difference. I once hosted a small gathering at my home, inviting friends from different walks of life. During the evening, as we shared stories over a meal, I made a conscious effort to use language that was simple and direct. I told a story about a recent hiking trip, describing every detail in a way that painted a clear picture: the soft crunch of leaves underfoot, the gentle whisper of the wind, and the breathtaking view from the mountaintop. I paused at moments to ask, "What does nature make you feel?" and encouraged everyone to share their own reflections. The conversation flowed effortlessly, with each person adding their unique perspective. By the end of the evening, we all felt more connected, not just through the shared experience of the meal, but through the honest, accessible language that had allowed our stories to intertwine. In another instance, I collaborated with a colleague named David on a creative project. David was known for his innovative ideas, but sometimes his technical explanations could be hard to follow. We decided to work together on refining his presentation, focusing on using everyday language to convey complex concepts. We practiced by breaking down each idea into its simplest components, replacing jargon with words that anyone could understand. As we rehearsed, David discovered that his ideas became even more powerful when delivered with clarity and simplicity. He began to ask, "How can I say this in a way that resonates with everyone?" rather than, "How can I impress with technical terms?" The transformation in his communication was remarkable. This experience reinforced for me that accessible language is not a limitation. It is a powerful tool that can elevate your message and broaden your audience. Another engaging exercise is to practice role-playing different scenarios with a partner. For instance, Imagine you are at a community event where you must explain a new initiative to a group of diverse listeners. Take turns narrating the same story, but each time, focus on using different tones, pacing, and accessible vocabulary. After each round, discuss what worked well and what could be improved. This interactive method not only sharpens your speaking skills, but also enhances your ability to listen actively and adapt your language on the fly. Have you ever tried role-playing a conversation and discovered a new way to express a familiar idea? During one of these role-playing sessions, I remember partnering with a friend named Laura. We decided to simulate a conversation about planting a community garden. Laura, who had a passion for sustainable living, explained her vision using clear and vivid language. She talked about the importance of each seed, the nurturing process of watering and care, and the eventual harvest that would feed not just bodies, but souls. I, on the other hand, focused on the logistical side of things, organizing volunteers, scheduling work sessions, and maintaining the garden structure. As we shared our perspectives, we realized that both stories were equally important and that using accessible language made our combined narrative much richer. Our discussion led to questions like, what does a thriving community garden look like to you? And how can we make this vision a reality using simple, effective steps? The conversation was dynamic, engaging, and most importantly, inclusive. As you continue to immerse yourself in these everyday interactions, remember that every conversation is an opportunity to practice and refine your skills. Whether you are discussing a complex project at work or simply chatting with a friend about your day, the principles of clear, accessible language remain the same. Focus on your tone, pace, and the choice of words, and always be open to feedback. Ask your listeners, was that clear? Or could I explain that in a better way? This openness to improvement not only builds your confidence, but also helps you evolve as a communicator. In the midst of all these personal stories and shared experiences, one common theme emerges. Language is the thread that weaves us together. It is the means by which we express our innermost thoughts, share our experiences, and connect with those around us. When you use accessible language, you remove barriers and invite others into your world. You create a space where every story, no matter how simple or complex, is valued and understood. Imagine the difference it would make if every conversation you had was filled with clarity, empathy, and genuine connection. How might your relationships, your work, and your daily interactions transform if you embrace this approach wholeheartedly? Let's take a moment to consider a simple yet powerful exercise that you can try on your own. The next time you have a conversation, challenge yourself to focus on one particular aspect of your language. Whether it's your tone, the pace of your speech, or the clarity of your words. Perhaps set a goal to replace one complex word with a simpler alternative, or to pause slightly longer at key moments to let your listener absorb your message. Over time, these small adjustments can lead to significant improvements in your overall communication style. During one reflective afternoon, I sat down with my journal and recounted the day's events using nothing but simple, accessible language. I described the sound of raindrops tapping on the window, the aroma of freshly baked bread from the local bakery, and the friendly chatter of passers-by. As I wrote, I noticed that the simplicity of my words made the experience more vivid and relatable. It was as if each sentence was a snapshot of the day, captured in clear, unembellished detail. This practice not only helped me improve my writing, but also reinforced the idea that clear, everyday language can capture even the most intricate emotions and experiences. Reflecting on all these experiences, from the quiet conversations on a cold morning bus ride to the animated discussions in community gatherings, it becomes clear that our journey toward mastering English listening and speaking skills is an ongoing one. Every interaction, Every shared story and every thoughtful pause contributes to our growth as communicators. The art of using accessible language lies in its ability to turn every conversation into an opportunity for connection, understanding, and learning. Imagine for a moment a future where you effortlessly share your experiences with clarity and warmth. Picture yourself in a room filled with friends or colleagues, each person hanging on your every word as you describe your latest adventure, a challenge you've overcome, or a simple moment of joy. Your language, unburdened by unnecessary complexity, flows naturally, each sentence a bridge that connects your inner world with that of your listeners. How empowering would it feel to know that your words not only convey information, but also inspire, comfort, and unite those around you? Consider how much more inviting your conversations would become if you consistently practice these techniques. When you speak with clarity and use accessible language, you invite others to participate fully in your narrative. You set the stage for meaningful dialogue, where every listener feels empowered to share their own story. Whether you are recounting a travel adventure, discussing a recent book you've read, or simply chatting about the weather, your words become the vessel through which experiences are shared and cherished. Think back to the stories you've heard today. The gentle recollections of George on a cold winter morning, Rebecca's heartfelt reading in the park, Ethan's inspiring journey of entrepreneurship, and so many more. Each of these narratives, told in accessible language, not only enriched my understanding, but also illuminated the power of clear communication. They serve as reminders that even the simplest stories, when shared with sincerity and clarity, can leave a lasting impact on the hearts and minds of those who listen. As you continue on this path, challenge yourself to be present in every conversation. Listen deeply to the words of others. Observe the subtle cues in their tone and body language, and respond with language that is both thoughtful and accessible. In doing so, you not only improve your own communication skills, but also contribute to a more empathetic and connected community. Remember, every conversation is a chance to learn, grow, and share a piece of yourself with the world. Now, consider the many small opportunities that await you each day. Conversations with a barista, discussions with a colleague, or chats with a neighbor. Each interaction is a canvas on which you can paint a vivid picture of your experiences using clear and simple language. Ask yourself, what story can I share today that will brighten someone else's day? By approaching every moment with the intention to connect, you transform ordinary exchanges into extraordinary lessons in communication. Imagine a future conversation where you describe a seemingly trivial event, a walk in the park, a visit to the local market, or a quiet moment spent reading. And yet your words resonate deeply with those around you. Your language, uncomplicated and sincere, becomes the foundation of trust and connection. This is the beauty of accessible language. It does not alienate with complexity, but rather invites everyone to be a part of the conversation, regardless of their background or proficiency in English. Think about the difference this approach can make not only in your personal life, but also in professional settings. In meetings, presentations, or collaborative projects, clear and accessible language ensures that every idea is communicated effectively, reducing misunderstandings and fostering an environment where innovation thrives. When you speak in a way that everyone can understand, you open the door to collaboration, creativity, and shared success. How might your work relationships improve if every discussion was guided by the principles of clarity, empathy, and accessibility? There are countless moments in life when a clear, well-told story can change perceptions, inspire action, and create lasting bonds. Whether you're sharing your morning routine, explaining a challenging concept, or recounting a life-changing experience, the way you use language matters. Each word, each pause, and each question you pose adds depth to your narrative and invites your listeners to explore new perspectives. As you continue to refine your skills, remember that the journey of language is one of continual growth and discovery. One conversation at a time. Consider this a gentle invitation to reflect on your own experiences and the stories you have yet to share. How can you use the lessons learned from these personal encounters to enrich your own narrative? In the quiet moments before a conversation, take a deep breath, clear your mind, and prepare to speak from the heart. Use language that is honest, accessible, and reflective of the true essence of your experiences. As you do so, you will not only enhance your own skills, but also touch the lives of those who listen, creating ripples of understanding and connection that extend far beyond the conversation at hand. Take a moment now to imagine all the stories waiting to be told in your life. The small joys, the challenges overcome, the everyday miracles that often go unnoticed. Each of these moments is an opportunity to practice advanced listening and speaking to refine your ability to communicate clearly and empathetically. As you prepare to share your narrative with the world, remember that your language is your most powerful tool. It can heal, inspire, and transform, turning simple words into bridges that connect hearts and minds. Let your journey of clear and accessible communication continue to unfold in every conversation you have, every story you share, and every moment you listen deeply. Embrace each experience as a lesson in the art of language, and know that with every word you speak, you are not only improving your own skills, but also contributing to a community where every voice is heard and valued. Imagine a day when every conversation you have feels like a journey into a storybook, where each person you meet shares not just words, but vivid snapshots of their lives. Picture yourself stepping into a world where language is not a barrier, but a bridge connecting hearts and minds. Today, as we continue our exploration of advanced English listening and speaking skills, I invite you to join me on an even deeper journey into the art of storytelling. Every moment, every interaction becomes a lesson in clarity, empathy, and the beauty of accessible language. Remember, new listeners, that on the English Pod Community channel, we upload fresh videos every day to help you improve your English skills, so you always have new content to practice with and learn from. Let's start with a story that takes us back to a bustling city park early on a bright, crisp morning. I met a man named Andrew, who had a calm, deliberate way of speaking that made every word count. Andrew was sitting on a worn wooden bench near a fountain, the gentle sound of water mingling with the distant laughter of children playing. As he spoke about his daily walk through the park, he described the simple pleasure of watching squirrels chase one another and the way sunlight danced on dew-covered leaves. He used clear, everyday language to express his gratitude for these small, yet significant moments. I asked him, "What makes these simple observations so meaningful to you?" He replied that it was in these small details that he found the beauty of life, reminding him that every day holds a little magic if we take the time to notice. Andrew's story was not just a narrative, it was an invitation to slow down and appreciate the richness of our surroundings. His accessible language and thoughtful delivery showed me that listening closely to everyday experiences can transform ordinary moments into powerful lessons in communication. Moving on from the park, I recall another day spent in a cozy neighborhood cafe where the aroma of fresh coffee blended with the soft murmur of conversations. At one table sat Clara, a young woman with bright eyes and a friendly smile. Clara was recounting an experience from her recent volunteer work at a local shelter. With a gentle tone, she described the laughter of children as they played games, and the quiet moments of reflection when she listened to the heartfelt stories of elderly residents. She asked, "Have you ever felt that a small act of kindness can change someone's day?" As she spoke, her language was simple yet full of emotion. Clara explained how she learned that every smile and every kind word builds bridges between people. Through her story, I realized that the art of speaking in accessible language lies in its ability to evoke empathy. Her words were not complicated, but they were powerful enough to remind us that the core of every good conversation is the connection we build with others. On another memorable afternoon, I joined a community discussion group at a local library. The group was diverse, with people from various walks of life gathered to share their experiences and insights. One participant, Marcus, shared a particularly moving story about overcoming personal challenges. He talked about a time when he faced a major setback in his career. Marcus described how, during a difficult period, he found solace in the simple act of writing in a journal. He wrote about his fears, hopes, and the small victories that helped him move forward. His narrative was sprinkled with questions like, "What do you do when the world feels overwhelming?" And "How can you find hope in the little things?" Marcus's use of accessible language helped everyone in the group understand his journey. His clear, honest expression reminded us that our struggles and triumphs are part of a larger human experience, one that we all share regardless of our backgrounds. As the discussion continued, I noticed how every speaker in the group contributed to an atmosphere of mutual respect and understanding. Take, for instance, Lena, a teacher who shared her own story of adapting to new teaching methods during a sudden change in her school. She spoke about the challenge of connecting with students in a digital environment and how she gradually learned to use simple, clear instructions to engage them. Lena's story was filled with practical advice. She explained that using everyday language in her online lessons helped bridge the gap between technology and human connection. "How do you keep your words clear when explaining something new?" she asked the group, sparking a conversation about effective communication in modern times. Lena's experience highlighted that accessible language is not only about simplifying words, but also about making sure that every listener, regardless of their familiarity with a subject, feels included. Later that evening, I attended a small gathering at a community center where families and friends met to celebrate local traditions. At the center of the celebration was a storyteller named Samuel, whose voice carried the weight of history and the lightness of joyful memories. Samuel recounted the tale of his childhood, growing up in a rural village where every season brought its own set of challenges and delights. With a clear, measured tone, he described the harvest festivals, the communal efforts to prepare for winter, and the quiet moments of reflection under starlit skies. His language was wonderfully accessible, painting pictures of warm, close-knit community life. Samuel's narrative was interwoven with pauses that allowed his listeners to imagine the scenes he described. "What do you remember most fondly from your childhood?" he asked, inviting everyone to share their own stories. His question was a reminder that the most profound connections are often forged through the simplicity of shared memories. As the celebration continued, I found myself reflecting on the common threads that tied these diverse experiences together. Whether it was Andrew's quiet morning in the park, Clara's heartfelt account of volunteer work, Marcus's journey through adversity, Lena's innovative teaching methods, or Samuel's nostalgic recollections, each story was told with language that was accessible and engaging. This reminded me that the beauty of advanced listening and speaking lies not in the complexity of the vocabulary we use, but in the clarity of our expression and the sincerity behind our words. Accessible language has the power to transform everyday conversations into moments of profound connection. Imagine yourself in a scenario where you are the storyteller. Think about a recent experience that moved you, a quiet moment of reflection, an unexpected encounter, or a challenge you faced and overcame. How would you tell that story using words that are simple yet evocative? Picture yourself describing the sound of raindrops on a window, the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze, or the warm glow of a sunset as you speak, focus on using clear language that allows your listener to see, hear, and feel every detail of your experience. Ask yourself, how can I make my story relatable to someone who has never been in my shoes? This exercise is accessible. One practical tip is to break down your narrative into small, digestible parts. Start by outlining the main events in chronological order. Then, focus on describing each event with clarity and emotion. Use familiar words and phrases to explain what happened and how you felt. For instance, if you are describing a busy day at work, you might say, "I felt a bit overwhelmed at first, but then I took a deep breath and focused on one task at a time." This simple expression of a common experience can resonate deeply with your listener. By keeping your language accessible, you invite your audience to join you in your story without feeling lost or disconnected. Another valuable technique is to practice active listening in your everyday conversations. When someone shares a story with you, pay close attention not only to their words, but also to the emotions behind them. Notice how they pause, how they emphasize certain phrases, and how their tone changes with different parts of the story. Then, try to summarize what you heard in your own words. This not only reinforces your listening skills, but also gives you insight into how you might express similar ideas clearly and effectively. For example, if a friend talks about a challenging day, you might respond, "It sounds like you had a really tough time, but I'm impressed by how you managed to find moments of peace in the chaos." Such feedback, expressed in accessible language, can validate the speaker's feelings and encourage a deeper, more meaningful conversation. I remember a particular instance when I was learning a new skill, cooking in this case, and I decided to document every step of the process in a daily journal. In my journal, I described each ingredient, the sounds of sizzling in the pan, and even the aroma that filled my small kitchen. I made sure to use clear, everyday language so that someone else reading my journal would feel as if they were right there with me. I wrote, "I chopped the onions until they were soft and almost melted into a gentle, sweet smell." Simple, straightforward words painted a vivid picture that made my writing relatable and engaging. This practice not only improved my writing skills, but also enhanced my ability to describe experiences in a way that is both accessible and memorable. Let's consider another scenario. You're participating in a lively online forum where people from around the world share their cultural traditions and daily routines. In this virtual space, language becomes a tool for bridging diverse experiences. When someone describes their favorite local festival or a family tradition, they often use familiar terms that capture the essence of their celebration. One forum member, Nadia, described her family's annual harvest dinner. She explained how every dish on the table told a story, each recipe passed down through generations. Nadia's language was plain and heartfelt. She asked, "What dish from your childhood brings back the best memories?" Her question sparked an engaging thread where participants shared stories of comfort food and shared laughter. This exchange showed that when we use accessible language, even the most culturally specific traditions become relatable and inviting to people from all backgrounds. In addition to personal storytelling and active listening, another powerful way to improve your communication skills is through role-playing exercises. Imagine setting aside some time with a friend or a language partner to simulate different scenarios. A job interview, a debate on a current topic, or even a casual chat about a recent movie. In each scenario, challenge yourself to use clear and accessible language. For example, if you're role-playing a job interview, try explaining your skills and experiences in simple terms. Instead of saying, "I orchestrated a comprehensive strategy to optimize workflow efficiency," you might say, "I organized a plan that helped the team work better together." This exercise not only boosts your confidence in speaking, but also trains you to think quickly and adapt your language to the needs of your audience. During one such role-playing session, I partnered with a friend named James. We took turns simulating a conversation about planning a community event. James described his vision of a small festival in the local park, emphasizing the importance of bringing neighbors together to celebrate and share their talents. He used simple, inviting language. Imagine a day where everyone comes together, sharing food, music, and laughter. I responded with questions like, how can we make sure everyone feels included? And what small details can make the event special? Our dialogue was filled with moments of laughter and thoughtful pauses. Through this exercise, we both discovered that by using accessible language, we could transform a simple idea into a community-wide celebration of unity and creativity. Reflecting on these varied experiences, from quiet mornings in the park to dynamic online forums, from journaling about everyday moments to engaging in role-play conversations, it becomes clear that advanced English listening and speaking skills are not just about mastering grammar or vocabulary. They are about connecting with people on a human level, using language that is clear, inviting, and rich with emotion. Accessible language is the key that unlocks the door to understanding, allowing us to share our experiences, learn from one another, and build relationships that span cultural and linguistic boundaries. Imagine yourself at a future community event where you are invited to share your own story. Perhaps you decide to recount a memorable moment when you overcame a personal challenge or found joy in an unexpected place. As you stand before the audience, you speak with clarity and warmth, choosing words that everyone can understand. You describe how you felt during that time, the fear, the excitement, the relief, and you ask your listeners, what small moment changed your perspective? Your words resonate, sparking a dialogue that transforms the event into a shared celebration of life's everyday miracles. Consider also the role of technology in shaping our language today. Podcasts, video blogs, and online discussion groups offer us countless opportunities to refine our speaking skills and listen actively. Every time you tune into a podcast episode on the English Pod community, you're not just absorbing information, you're engaging with stories that are told in simple, relatable language. Notice how the hosts ask reflective questions, pause, to emphasize key points, and invite listeners to share their own experiences. These techniques, when combined with accessible language, create a learning environment where advanced listening and speaking skills are nurtured naturally. Ask yourself, what can I learn from the way these hosts communicate? And how can I apply their techniques to my own daily conversations? One day, you might decide to record your own podcast episode or video blog. Imagine preparing your script by carefully selecting everyday words that convey your message clearly. You rehearse in front of a mirror, paying attention to your tone and pace. And you imagine your listeners feeling as if you are speaking directly to them in a warm, inviting manner. This exercise not only improves your spoken English, but also enhances your writing skills. As you craft your narrative, you learn to balance detail with simplicity, creating stories that are both informative and emotionally resonant. I also want you to think about how accessible language can help bridge generational gaps. Picture a family gathering where grandparents, parents, and children all share stories of the past and present. When your grandfather speaks about his youth, he uses simple language filled with memories of a time when life was slower and more deliberate. His stories are sprinkled with questions like, what was your favorite pastime as a child? And how did you find joy in the little things? These questions encourage the younger members of the family to reflect on their own experiences and share them in turn. The conversation flows naturally, each generation learning from the other. Accessible language in this context becomes the common thread that weaves together the fabric of family history. Furthermore, accessible language is a powerful tool in the realm of education. Teachers who use clear, everyday language help students, grasp complex concepts more easily. For example, when explaining scientific phenomena, a teacher might say, think of a cell as a tiny factory where each part has a specific job, rather than using complicated terminology. This approach not only makes learning more enjoyable, but also empowers students to ask questions and explore ideas without fear of confusion. Imagine a classroom where every student feels confident to speak up, where their questions are met with understanding and encouragement. That classroom becomes a microcosm of the larger world, one where accessible language is the foundation of lifelong learning and effective communication. Let's also consider the impact of accessible language on personal growth. When you practice speaking and writing in clear, simple terms, you begin to internalize these habits. Over time, your thoughts become more organized, and your ability to articulate your ideas improves. You start noticing that when you speak with clarity, people respond with greater interest and empathy. Whether you're discussing a new project at work or sharing a personal challenge with a friend, the use of accessible language ensures that your message is received in the spirit it was intended. It encourages feedback, nurtures understanding, and ultimately strengthens the bonds between you and your listeners. In another personal anecdote, I recall a time when I was organizing a local charity event. I had to communicate with volunteers from various backgrounds, each with their own way of expressing themselves. I made it a point to use simple, direct language when sending out instructions and updates. I wrote messages like, "Please meet at the community center at 10 a.m., and we appreciate your help in making this event a success." The clarity of these messages ensured that everyone was on the same page. Later, during the event, volunteers expressed how easy it was to follow the instructions and felt more connected to the cause because they understood every detail. That experience reinforced my belief that accessible language is not about dumbing down your ideas. It's about making sure your message reaches everyone, regardless of their background or level of expertise. Imagine the ripple effect of this approach in your everyday life. When you commit to speaking clearly and listening actively, you inspire others to do the same. A conversation that begins with simple words can lead to profound insights, sparking creative ideas, and nurturing empathy. Picture a scenario where you and a group of friends are discussing your favorite books. Instead of debating complex literary theories, you focus on what the stories made you feel, asking, which character did you relate to the most? Or what lesson did you take away from the story? Such discussions become vibrant exchanges of ideas where everyone feels valued and every opinion contributes to a richer understanding of the narrative. Technology and social media have also become platforms for sharing stories in accessible language. Consider the popularity of short videos on platforms like TikTok or Instagram, where creators tell compelling stories in just a few seconds or minutes. These creators often use simple language, relatable examples, and engaging visuals to capture their audience's attention. They ask questions like, have you ever experienced a day that changed your perspective? Or, what small act of kindness made a big difference in your life? Such content reminds us that the power of language lies not in its complexity, but in its ability to connect with people on a personal level. As you watch these videos, think about how you might incorporate similar techniques into your own communication style. In our journey of continuous improvement, it is also important to celebrate the small victories along the way. Each time you successfully share a story, ask a thoughtful question, or listen deeply to someone else's experience, you are building a foundation for better communication. Whether it's during a casual chat with a neighbor or a more formal discussion in a work meeting, every conversation is an opportunity to practice and refine your skills. Reflect on these moments and ask yourself, what went well today? And how can I improve for tomorrow? This practice of self-reflection, combined with the use of accessible language, transforms every day into a step forward on your path to becoming a more confident and effective communicator. Imagine a future where you look back on your journey of language learning with pride. Picture yourself at a reunion, sharing your experiences with friends and family, and realizing that each conversation you had contributed to your growth. You speak with a clear, confident voice that draws people in, and your stories resonate deeply with everyone who listens. This vision is not far from reality. By embracing the principles of accessible language, simplicity, clarity, and empathy, you can transform your daily interactions into powerful experiences of connection and understanding. Now, let's delve into another rich narrative from my personal experience. Not long ago, I embarked on a short road trip to a quaint town nestled in the countryside. Along the way, I met a local farmer named Benjamin. Benjamin had a way of talking about his work that was both humble and profound. He described his daily routine, from tending to the fields at sunrise to carefully harvesting the ripened fruits in the afternoon. His language was unadorned, yet every word was filled with genuine passion and respect for the land. Benjamin would often say, "Every season tells a story, and every crop is a chapter in the tale of nature." As I listened, I realized that his approach to storytelling was a perfect example of accessible language. He didn't need elaborate descriptions or complex terms. His simple, heartfelt words painted a vivid picture of rural life. His narrative made me think about the importance of tradition, the cycles of nature, and how every person has a story worth telling, even if it's about something as ordinary as a day's work in the fields. During that trip, I also visited a small artisanal market where local craftspeople gathered to display their handmade goods. Among them was a potter named Elise, who spent hours explaining the inspiration behind her work. She talked about how each piece of clay, when touched by her hands, transformed into a work of art that told the story of her heritage and her creative journey. Elise's language was wonderfully accessible. She compared the process of molding clay to shaping one's destiny, using phrases like, "Just as you gently press the clay, you can shape your future with care and determination." Her words resonated with everyone at the market, inviting us to see the beauty in everyday artistry. Elise's storytelling reminded me that accessible language is a powerful tool for sharing our passions, no matter how niche or specialized they might seem. As our day on that road trip came to a close, I found myself reflecting on the myriad ways in which accessible language had enriched my experiences. From Benjamin's evocative descriptions of nature to Elise's creative insights, each conversation reinforced the idea that clarity and simplicity are the cornerstones of effective communication. These encounters, like so many others, offered practical lessons in how to listen attentively and speak in a manner that invites understanding and fosters connection. Throughout our journey today, we've explored a diverse range of scenarios, from the quiet moments of reflection in a city park to the bustling energy of a community gathering, from intimate one-on-one conversations to the shared experiences of group discussions. Each story, each question posed, and each thoughtful pause has contributed to a richer understanding of what it means to communicate effectively in English. Accessible language is not just about choosing the right words. It is about creating an environment where every listener feels seen, heard, and valued. Imagine the impact of applying these lessons in your own life. Whether you are writing a heartfelt letter, giving a presentation at work, or simply chatting with a friend, you have the power to transform your communication by focusing on clarity, empathy, and simplicity. The techniques we've discussed: active listening, breaking down complex ideas into simple parts, using relatable examples, and asking engaging questions, are all tools that can help you become a better speaker and writer. As you practice these skills, you'll notice that your conversations become more dynamic, your relationships deepen, and your overall confidence in English grows stronger. Think of every conversation as a mini adventure. When you engage with Mam Deepa, someone, visualize it as an opportunity to explore new ideas, share personal insights, and build lasting connections. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this interaction? And how can I share my own story in a way that resonates with others? With every question you ask and every story you share, you add a new chapter to your own narrative, a narrative that is enriched by the diverse voices of those around you. As you continue on this journey, consider setting aside time each day to reflect on your conversations. Perhaps you could start a journal dedicated to capturing the essence of the stories you hear and the lessons you learn from them. Write down the moments when you felt truly connected, the questions that sparked new ideas, and the instances where accessible language made a difference in understanding. Over time, this practice will not only improve your listening and speaking skills, but also become a treasured record of your growth as a communicator. Imagine, too, the joy of sharing these reflections with others. Whether it's in a casual conversation with a friend, a study group, or even during a community workshop, your insights can inspire those around you to embrace the power of accessible language. Encourage others to share their stories, ask questions, and practice active listening. In doing so, you create a ripple effect, each conversation building on the last, each story weaving a richer tapestry of shared human experience. Now, I invite you to take a moment and think about your own life. Recall a time when a simple, clear conversation changed your perspective. Was it a word of encouragement from a teacher, a heartfelt story shared by a friend, or perhaps an unexpected moment of clarity during a challenging time? Reflect on how that moment influenced you and consider how you can use similar language in your own interactions. Remember, every day is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to connect more deeply with those around you through the art of accessible language. Let your journey continue as you experiment with new ways to express yourself, be it through writing, speaking, or even recording your own voice. Embrace each chance to share your thoughts with the confidence that comes from knowing your language is clear, your ideas are valuable, and your stories have the power to inspire. By focusing on simplicity and clarity, you transform your communication into a celebration of everyday life. One conversation at a time, imagine the possibilities that open up when you feel confident in your ability to articulate your experiences in a way that resonates with everyone around you. Whether you are describing a beautiful sunset, recounting a personal challenge, or simply explaining your favorite hobby, accessible language allows you to communicate in a way that is both genuine and engaging. Every listener, regardless of their background or level of English proficiency, can join in the conversation, adding their own unique perspective to the shared narrative. Consider how this approach not only enhances your own skills, but also contributes to a more inclusive community. When everyone feels comfortable sharing their stories, we create a space where diverse voices are celebrated and where every perspective matters. Accessible language becomes the common ground that unites us, reminding us that, despite our differences, we all share the same basic human experiences: joy, sorrow, hope, and resilience. As you continue to immerse yourself in these conversations, remember that every word you speak and every story you share is an opportunity to make a positive impact. The next time you engage in a discussion, whether online or in person, try to incorporate the techniques we've explored today. Ask thoughtful questions, listen intently, and speak with clarity. Let your language be a reflection of your genuine desire to connect and understand. Think about the ripple effects of such interactions. A clear, heartfelt conversation can brighten someone's day, spark new ideas, or even change the course of a relationship. Your commitment to using accessible language is not just a personal improvement. It's a contribution to a broader movement of understanding, empathy, and shared human connection. Each conversation, no matter how small, adds to the collective story of our community, creating a tapestry of voices that enriches us all. Imagine a future where every conversation you have feels like a warm, inviting embrace, where your words, chosen with care, create moments of clarity and connection. Picture yourself confidently sharing your experiences, inspiring others with your simple yet powerful language, and listening with a genuine curiosity that invites even more stories into your life. This is the promise of accessible language. It is the key to unlocking the full potential of every human interaction, transforming everyday exchanges into meaningful, lifelong connections. Consider now the endless opportunities that lie ahead. Whether you are preparing for a big presentation at work, engaging in a heartfelt conversation with a loved one, or even recording your own podcast episode, the skills you develop today will serve you for years to come. Embrace every chance to practice speaking and listening with clarity, and let each experience shape you into a more confident, empathetic, and effective communicator. Reflect on the many inspiring voices you've encountered. Andrew in the park, Clara at the cafe, Marcus in the library, Lena in her classroom, Samuel at the community center, Benjamin in the countryside, and Elise at the market. Their stories told in accessible language have shown us that the power of communication lies in its simplicity and its ability to touch hearts. Their voices remind us that every person has a unique story to tell, and that by sharing these stories openly and honestly, we enrich our own lives and the lives of those around us. Imagine the legacy you could create by committing to this path, by making every conversation an opportunity to share your true self in language that is both clear and inspiring. The journey of language learning is not about perfection, but about connection. With every word you speak and every story you listen to, you add to the vibrant mosaic of our shared human experience. Each narrative, each thoughtful pause, and each sincere question is a step toward a more connected, understanding, and empathetic world. As we continue this immersive exploration of advanced English listening and speaking skills, let your thoughts wander freely. Embrace the idea that every conversation, no matter how brief, is a chance to practice clarity, empathy, and connection. Open your heart to the simple beauty of accessible language and let it guide you in every interaction. Whether you are recounting your day, sharing your dreams, or reflecting on your experiences, remember that your words have the power to light up a room, to bridge gaps, and to inspire others to share their own stories in return.